Makarasana or Dolphin Pose. Really a wonderful pose. It has so many benefits, and it's a great prep pose for a lot of our harder poses. It's going to help to build your shoulder strength, your arm strength, your core strength, to build you up towards handstand, headstand. Doing this pose, you can kind of do it in one of two ways, which is similar to downward facing dog. You can kind of sink into it and not really use your muscles to support and lift, or we can root down into the earth, root and rebound, lift up higher, and really use the muscles to create length and lift. If you're using the muscles to create length and lift, it's going to help to build you up for some of the more challenging poses we do later on in class. As always, our foundation is really important. With our dolphin pose, of course, our arms are our foundation. Elbows are shoulder width apart. You can either keep your hands shoulder width apart as well and press the palms of your hands into the floor, or you can interlace the fingers. We do want to keep spinning that biceps forward, just like we talked about in plank pose. So there's a little bit of rotation in the shoulder joint. If you bring your hands together, it will internally rotate the shoulder just a little bit. Not so much that it's going to be a huge problem, but if you have tight shoulders, interlacing the fingers, because it creates a little bit of internal rotation, will be a little bit more accessible. Some people feel that it feels more supportive and stable as well. So either or, if you're doing palms into the mat, we still want to spread the fingers wide, anchor into all four corners of the hand, in particular that index finger knuckle. And again, elbows stay shoulder width apart. And the way they're going to do that is this rotation. That's what's going to hug your elbow in. Spin the bicep forward. If we're pressing into the hands, we want to press equally from the fingertips to the elbows. If we're interlacing the fingers, we want to press evenly from the outer edge of the hand all the way to the elbow. Just like our headstand, when you're interlacing the fingers, you have a few different options. You can tuck the pinky in, or you can keep the pinkies crossed if that feels comfortable for you. And if you're doing that version, just to help build us up for headstand, think about stacking the wrist. So the top of the inside of the wrist is stacked over the bottom or the outside part of the wrist. To clarify, there is a difference between dolphin pose and dolphin plank. Dolphin plank is plank pose but down on your elbows. This is a great option for plank pose if you have a wrist injury. Dolphin pose is essentially downward facing dog but down on the elbows, so your hips are high. Dolphin pose, the hips are high. Again, there's that root and rebound action. So you want to push into the elbows to lift the hips high. Weight is even between the arms and the feet, just like our downward facing dog. Feet are hip width apart. Pelvis, just like our downward facing dog. The pubic bone and the tailbone are reaching up and back towards where the ceiling connects to the back wall. If we have tight hamstrings, we'll tend to shift it forward, more towards that plank. Again, just like our downward dog, if this is happening, bend the knees. Lengthen the spine a little bit more. If we're a little bit more flexible, we might have the tendency to over push and go too deep. We want to keep that V shape in the body, the upside down V shape. Of course, Mula Bandha is engaged here as well. So squeeze the imaginary block, feel that pull up into the pelvic floor, and then lift the tailbone high. Keeping that tailbone lifting is really going to build our core strength for our headstand and other postures. And just like we talked about in our downward facing dog, our shoulder blades are doing the same action. The shoulder blades are pulling away from each other, around towards our armpits, and spinning your biceps is going to help with that. And then we're pushing into our elbows. So when you push into the elbows, that's the same as pushing into your knuckles in downward dog. It's the same as reaching high up onto the shelf for something. So your shoulder blade will lift. In order to get this extreme range of motion of the arms all the way up over the head, the shoulder blade has to lift. That is healthy. If we try to push into the elbows and then pull the shoulder blades away from the ears, that can cause impingement in the shoulder. It's one of the leading injuries in yoga for this reason, for this cue. And again, you don't have to push into the elbows. You can kind of sink, but then you're not going to create as much strength. You're not going to create as much core strength. And you're not going to create the muscle memory and the body awareness to be able to lift up into headstand or handstand. And if you're not doing those poses, then that's totally fine. You'll still get some benefits if you kind of sink into the pose, but you'll get more of the strength than if we try to lift up. I'm going to show you these two. Hopefully you can kind of see the difference in my body. When I talk about sinking into the pose, I mean that we're in the shape, but we're just kind of softening down into the ground. We're letting gravity push us down. If we're activating, if we're doing root and rebound, we push down into the floor and create this lift, this length.
That's more of an active pose.
Of course, the active pose is going to be harder, but it's going to build up that strength. It's going to put our body into a little bit of healthy stress. And just like anything else, if you're working on that to build up that strength for headstand or something, just build it up slowly. Play with building up a very active root and rebound lifting pose for, 20 seconds, and just build it day by day. And again, since we are only working at about 60% of our capacity in yoga, you could do it every day. You could do that every day for 20 seconds, then 30 seconds, then 40, building up to about a minute and a half of a really active dolphin and or downward facing dog. It's a great prep pose for your headstand